Celtics Nets. I guess I don't know what we expected. It was an interesting game. I want to get everybody's thoughts. We're going to fill up the chat. We're going to do locker room. I'm going to hang off and I'm going to I'll tell you guys early now with Kendrick Perkins joining us on locker room later on. So, yeah.
Yes,
so you want to join us afterwards for sure. Fill up. Kendrick's going to be spitting fire, I'm sure, on the on one post-game show, and then he's going to join our post-game show, and we're going to chop it up and discuss the Celtics 104-93 loss to Brooklyn. I can spoiler alert. Here's how this show is going to go. Bobby's going to tell us why this was an encouraging game for the Celtics, and the rest of us are going to tell us why it was utterly depressing. We're going to do that for about an hour.
It might be okay. It might be split then. The show might be split.
Good thing I'm here then.
Maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
or maybe you're in the minority, right? Maybe you're 104.
I already can't stand everything John's gonna say tonight.
Wow. You can already tell, right?
I'm just ready for this. The group chat was completely silent all game. You guys weren't saying anything, and that just said to me right away, they're not buying any of this. And rightfully so, because the Nets still came on and won this game.
True, rightfully so. But sorry, go ahead.
All that matters here is that you saw some compete, some just heart from the Celtics in this game, and something to project in the next year. Something that when you start to see this team in a more complete state next year, there's hope there.
I'm looking at next year, not next game, not this series. Anything we saw.
John.
No, I'm saying anything you saw here that was encouraging, it has to do with next year. And like Rob Williams being transcendent on 1 foot was such a revelation.
He damn near had a triple-double on one
rebound, 1 block short.
Exactly.
And just so happened to break a Celtics playoff record. Unlimited minutes on 1 foot. It's incredible.
Yeah. Unreal.
But it's a reminder of why this Celtics team is just so freaking snake bitten this year, because these are the games where when they have key guys relatively helpful, they can play with Brooklyn. But when you don't have a Jaylen Brown, you have Kemba Walker who's shooting like crap all game long. You got Fournier taking bad shots, and there you are. Really, up until like the last 5 or 6 minutes, you're right there in the thick of things with the team that hands down has the most firepower. There were a lot more encouraging things about this game looking down the road. And to your guys' point, this isn't going to do a damn thing for this series. That they played them well. It's just not. I still don't think they're going to win a game. But at least we have a sample size that shows their core guys can actually compete, and they can compete against some of the top-tier teams. I thought they were going to get their asses waxed from the jump. I thought Brooklyn was going to come out and smash them. And that didn't happen.
But I just feel like if Kemba didn't hit those last 2 threes, John would have went on the whole this is borderline embarrassing, guys. Like he would have started the show like that. Like for their,
they were about to get beat by they were about to get beat by 20 in a game that was nowhere close to that.
Those threes.
Well, that's what I mean, though. That's what I mean, though. If they lost by 20, it would tell a different story, or at least John would have ran with that narrative.
Nothing that happened in the last 2 minutes matters. What matters tonight is this. Your 2 biggest players came up really short. Celtics settled for way too many contested shots against a really crappy
defense. Get out
of
here. Tatum was awesome in this game.
Wrong.
He was awful. He set a great tone early. He was getting inside. He was drawing free throws.
He tried a little early. He was brutal for almost 3 quarters, Bobby. You got to be honest with it. He didn't score a field goal in the second half until I don't know if you've had one. How do you call? How do you call a performance where your best player doesn't score a freaking field goal in the second half?
Because he set an early tone.
Yeah. Dude, come on. That's not his job. His job is to set an early tone. Is to dominate.
But sooner or later, you have to start. Yeah, to start commanding the ball more. Yeah,
somebody had to step up in the second.
I was surprised we did that.
Tatum had 5 shots in the second half with about 5 minutes to play, and that should never happen with your best player. No. I guarantee you, if you look at the top 10 players in the league, and we talk about the top 10 scorers, they're not going to have 5 shots taken in the second half with 5 minutes to go. They're going to, particularly in a game that you've played well enough to be in. I thought Tatum, he wasn't assertive enough, which was crazy because there was that point in the game where Kevin Durant had a push off, and Tatum got really pissed. And was like demonstrative about it. And I'm thinking, you need to be like that at the offensive end of the floor too, buddy. You need to be demonstrative. You need to be engaged. You need to be that way, not just in the first quarter and early second quarter, but also in the third and the fourth. I thought Tatum was just that. He the way he played in the first half, that needed to stay throughout the course of the game. And I'm not talking about the shot making. I'm talking about the attitude. He had a badass attitude the first half, and it just didn't translate into the second.
It's too
and
bad.
I hated that, Sherrod. I hated it because, it's too bad because I felt like he was the calls, the respect that he's sort of been asking for all season long, right? And to his credit,
the way he played.
You dropped 60, you dropped 50 in a 3-week span. I mean, you're going to get some respect around here, right? I felt like the referees were giving him that. But you got to be aggressive. You have to continue to be aggressive and force the issue. I thought he was a little shy in the second half, especially when Kemba Walker, let's face it, after the first quarter overall, I mean, he just wasn't the offensive firepower.
I don't think it was as much aggression as they had to be being in control. The turnovers got a little crazy in the second half. They were letting Brooklyn get out on runouts, get open shots. That last exchange turnover with Thompson and Tatum was the game. And that was just a disaster when it came to ball control. I got to look back at that and see whose fault it was. Yeah. It looked like Thompson's at first to me. I'm sure there was just a miscommunication as a whole there. But Tatum's problem to me wasn't his offense. I thought his approach was good pretty much throughout the game. His connectivity, getting other guys quality shots, controlling the ball, not allowing the other team to get those turnovers is still what frustrates me with him. And I don't feel like anybody got Evan Fournier the quality looks that he needed in this one. And that's Tatum's job.
Stop. No. I love Evan. I do. But his decision making in this game was atrocious. I mean, there was that point in this, I think it was the third quarter where it was starting to get a little squirrely. They had a timeout. They came out of it, and he takes a contested baseline jumper at a point when you absolutely needed a bucket. You're like the last guy that should be taking that shot.
That's what bugged me about the offense on the whole. Okay. And yes, Tatum was trying to be aggressive and it just didn't happen for him in the second half. Brooklyn this is a horrible defensive team with no interior presence. And everybody outside of Tatum was just taking contested 2s or 3s all game long. There wasn't enough aggression from anybody really trying to put pressure on Brooklyn. These guys can't defend.
Smart gave it a good shot.
Smart played a good game, and Smart was stepping up when he saw that Kemba wasn't for sure. And that was, that was something, but not enough of that. I mean, offensively, this was unbelievable. I mean, they ended up with 20 and 20 in the third and the fourth, but
they were missing. They
had 8 points, like with 3-4 minutes left to go in the third quarter, and the same thing with the fourth, and salvaged them with a couple of late runs.
And not for nothing, but those 9 points from Jabari Parker, that was kind of a gift. No one anticipated that.
Right. You're not going to get that those type of contributions
that might not happen again
throughout the series. Right. This was a blown opportunity to steal one.
Blown opportunity.
There's absolutely no doubt. You're not going to get Brooklyn that's going to come out this flat. You're not going to get Brooklyn that's going to be as, frankly, disengaged defensively as they were tonight, because they're going to get better as this series goes on.
Disconnected on offense.
They looked like a team whose 3 stars had only played together 8 times all season.
It was a real concern.
Yeah. You see Durant and Kyrie on the bench, they're kind of just like talking like, did you notice when he did that? Like, they're still trying to figure this thing out, but I mean, they're so damn
talented be worrisome for them
that they can pull it off, like it's I thought it was a great opportunity for something. It was.
So, look, we went in on Tatum a little bit, and again, but this is the part of the show that Bobby's going to hate. He's already said he's going to hate everything I'm going to say. I'm not going to talk. We're just going to talk about Kemba Walker. Okay, you guys do the talking. This was atrocious. Okay, I've done all the talking I'm going to do.
I love Kemba. I really do, but damn, this is just an absolute shitty game for him. I mean, maybe one of the worst he's had as a Celtic in terms of his performance and the magnitude of the game. They needed him so badly in this game to be average, not to be great Kemba, but be average Kemba, and he wasn't even able to do that. I mean, you look at those shots, and he's 5 for 16, and 2 or 3 of those came when the game was out of reach.
Yeah,
he has to be better.
Right? Yeah, I know. It was those two. You throw them out there.
He was a disaster. Yeah, this is a bad matchup for him. It feels like. I think on the whole, this matchup's good for Boston, but this
shouldn't be a bad matchup for him.
The shots that he was able to get in this game were not bad.
They were open. He just missed.
I just get a sense.
Yeah, but see, that's what happens when he's chasing around. Like it's almost the same approach we saw last season in the bubble. Like he's he's trying to catch up, and then when it's time for him to do his thing, he's having a tough time either finishing at the rim or he's hitting his shot in the front rim and they're not going in. It's not falling.
Well, I mean, to me, the secret sauce, if you're going to be able to hold your own with Brooklyn, if they continue to start the way they do, is get whoever Blake Griffin is guarding in an ISO. He may be the worst starting defender in the NBA.
They took advantage of him early.
Yeah, and they should. And every team. To me, if Brooklyn gets past the Celtics, which they should, at some point, Steve Nash is going to have the cojones and say, Blake, sorry, you're going to have to sit, because he is going to keep teams in a lot of games as long as he's on the floor. But that's not our problem.
Hey, well,
I mean,
the Celtics need to do a better job of taking advantage of that guy. I mean, Tatum, I thought Tatum, one of the reasons Tatum was able to get going early on was because they get that switch and Blake would be on him. The Celtics, and that's another thing too. I didn't think the Celtics did a good enough job of creating the maximum mismatches on offense. It's like they've never heard of setting a pick and creating a switch. And yet you watch Brooklyn, that's all they did.
And even when Tatum gets a guy on a switch, when he gets a guard or somebody on him on a switch, he just sets him up for a contested two, for a long two over the top.
Instead of going to the basket against a guy who's smaller than you, with a team that has no rim protection.
Yeah, no rim protection at all. That's what was frustrating. I feel like, just not enough of that. Way, way, way too many contested shots and too many threes.
Yeah, the Celtics' biggest problem tonight was that free-flowing nature offensively, where you didn't have someone set in as that facilitator who was going to set everybody up. Everybody, for the most part, was just trying to get their own and fit in where they could. On the defensive end, as Sherrod just said, way too easy to be switched on. That cannot be your game plan here. From the opening minutes, letting Thompson guard Harden as many possessions as he did.
Jabari on Durant. And that was by design, actually, though, I think.
Letting Durant shoot over Smart.
The Thompson one might have been by design, but I don't think the Parker one was.
It feels like it was by design. I just don't think it's the right move. And I get what everyone was arguing. You just set them up to take jumpers over those guys, and you want them taking jumpers rather than getting to their spots and creating and dishing it out and all that kind of stuff. It was just too easy, though. It's not like Thompson was able to stay in front of Harden.
This is what Brad does, though, right, guys? He gets creative like this when he's shorthanded. I mean, we've seen it in the past. It didn't surprise me that. We said it would be
the Parker series. We did say this is a
Parker was fine.
The Parker part too, but also Thompson switching on to Harden. It seemed like he would avoid the switch sometimes, as if he was programmed to stay with Harden in some instances. And I wouldn't put it past Brad Stevens just to sort of shake things up, throw a different body at him. And
I don't think it's a good move. You have a guy.
He'll welcome that challenge.
He will, but he'll get blown by. You have one of the best guys at hedging screens in the NBA and Marcus Smart. And to see him forced to just hand off Thompson to Harden there is infuriating. Yeah. You have to fight. You have to grind through screens in this series. You have to prevent Brooklyn from getting those matchups. I know you're not going to shut down Brooklyn, but you have to at least challenge them defensively.
It just feels like that was part of the game plan for Marcus to just kind of let that go, because Marcus' instinct would not allow him to detach himself.
I know. It was the game plan. 100%.
And guys, let's not forget too. Bobby, let's not forget. These fouls, they stack up against these guys, right? Against the Hardens. You're gonna get you try to keep Marcus fighting through. He'll do it relentlessly, and he'll pick up some fouls. Jayson Tatum is gonna stack up fouls. Kemba Walker, every single game in the series, he will stack up fouls. This is just a tough matchup overall, but especially when you're talking about those kind of guys who are constantly getting free throw line, especially James Harden.
You can switch Rob onto Harden, and that's fine, because that was one of the best defensive series I've seen anybody play all year. With Rob there on Harden, keeping him from getting to the paint.
Good tonight. This was the best game I think Rob Williams has played as a Celtic. When you look at, a damn near triple double on 1 foot.
Yeah,
seriously.
No,
the fact that he's able to block shots from inside the paint, at the 3-point line, and damn near everywhere in between. I mean, Rob was just phenomenal.
Yeah,
tonight.
when you consider,
he could be a story we're telling in 5 years, maybe.
Yes, this is flat out. When you consider his health, when you consider the matchup, and just frankly what the Celtics needed in this game, this was one of the best performances I've ever seen from a Celtic.
And it feels like, this was the one that they should have taken.
Yeah, who was the most impressive? Who was the most impressive human being on the court tonight for both teams?
Rob Williams.
Rob Williams, without a question.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Right.
He had Durant shaken on various possessions going inside.
Yeah.
He blocked Kyrie from behind. He sent shots flying on the perimeter.
The one that he had on Bruce Brown was amazing. He went up for the initial shot and came down and was able to bounce back up and block it.
Bounced back and came back right. Yep.
I mean, that was
and he blocked Harden on the 3-point line.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Some of those were so impressive. And
beyond the blocks, he had 3-4 great contests.
Yeah.
KD inside, Harris on the 3-point line,
and
just
they
everywhere.
Recognized it with they recognized him on the roll a little bit more, they could have really gotten that going more than they did tonight.
Here's the problem: that 14-minute mark, because that's when he went down against Washington in the previous game. He gets there again tonight, later in the game, which was good. But once he blocked Claxton twice inside on that play and came up lame, that was it. He had to go to the bench, and that was game. And that's still going to be the question with his career. Can he get up into the higher echelon minutes ever? He'll be a great bench player if this is a 20-minute per game guy. But he's got to get to 25, 30.
I'm still not putting that label on him, okay? Because, again, he had something coming out of college, and that's not what's plagued him. He's had a hip thing, and all that did was had him miss a couple of games this year, which is normal for people, okay, to miss some. This toe thing is out of nowhere. I'm not branding him injury-prone yet, okay? I don't think it's fair yet, but if it continues on another –
it's on his credit report, John, you know?
Yeah.
If it goes another year,
now in terms of being able to,
he does not have an 820 score.
In terms of being able to,
until he clears this, it's gonna be there, you know.
Now, John, in terms of being able to play through an injury, A+. I mean, how can you look any better with an injury than what he looked like tonight?
We're talking about a guy who relies so heavily on being an impact player because of that leaping ability, which means that, and again, the Bruce Brown block is the one that jumps out to me. How the hell can you make that play with turf toe? Where you're just boom, boom. That's
a positive thing about in this series, just the way the series is constructed, multiple days off between all these games.
Yeah.
For 2 days off, or 3 in this case, I guess it was, to be able to rejuvenate him to this level, missing a couple of those practices and just sitting down on it. We know this is an injury where there's not going to be a long-term risk to fighting through it. He's going to be here for this series, it looks like, and that's going to help Boston quite a bit.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat here I find interesting. What's Williams' ceiling compared to other bigs the Celtics have had in the past? He's a hard person to rate.
Everything is relative to health.
It's health, but he's also so different than anybody they've ever had.
Too. He's sort of one of one, you know. Like, what's his comp?
There's no comp.
Not among Celtics. I think the only guy in the league that I think comps is JaVale McGee, as far as having that ridiculously athletic.
So much better.
Well, he is better, but I'm saying as far as the things that Rob does that he's consistent with, they're similar to JaVale. Incredible leaper, a legit center who has that pogo pong leaping ability where he's just bounce.
But then you throw in the passing, and it's like
there's nothing like that.
That's what I mean. It's like here, and
you've got you want to do Celtics comparisons, shot blocking ability. Bill Russell. Okay, there, I said it. Passing ability.
Ryan said it.
Passing ability.
That
Bill
carries some weight.
Walton. Okay, if you want to do comps. Like, he can do both of those things. Sure, he doesn't have a refined offensive game yet with a face-up ability and be able to shoot a jumper or really any post move. So he's all he's all in the flow, and but I mean, his basketball instincts are pretty off the charts. You know, like, you think, again, we've talked about potential before. It is possible that he comes back in a year and all of a sudden he's knocking down 12, 14 footers, and you're like,
he becomes an all-star
problem, you know, like
he's an all-star,
or just a little bit of a catch it with confidence, baby hook, you know, something like that. Even just a drop step, really simple stuff. He doesn't have to be Kevin McHale. He just has to be able to catch it and with touch, because he's got touch.
We're starting to see
he hits floaters in the lane with like 8-10 footers, and you're like, he catches and putbacks very soft, you know, like he could do a lot of things.
He's adding things to his game quickly, John. We're seeing flashes left and right.
He's learning.
With him, it comes back to staying healthy, being on the floor long enough to do those things. That's that until he shows us otherwise, that is going to be what's going to keep him from being, frankly, coming anywhere close to that ceiling. He
The
doesn't.
Celtics-
Rob's definitely homeschooled. Yeah, definitely.
This was a big.
That's a classic.
That's why he was late. That's why he was late. You know, he's not used to it. He's not used to getting up.
Yes, that's true.
He's not used to getting up and leaving
This
his
is
house.
Jimmy. Now I think about it.
He doesn't go to homeschool, Jimmy. You know, that's why he had trouble waking up.
He did not go to homeschool.
No,
This is a big topic on this show. The minutes with him.
Yeah, because it's going to be interesting to see what Brad does moving forward. I felt like he was itching to get Rob back in there in that third quarter when the Nets got out to that huge run, and he could, because he's thinking, man, I'm going to need him later. And he actually, it wasn't by design. It was like an extra 2 minutes because first he was going to get Tristan Thompson, but he was at the free throw line, and then they just couldn't get a dead ball. He's standing there at the scores table, and I feel like Brad's thinking, okay, this is a good thing. You know, they'll get to the fourth quarter, we'll use them, you know, and the Celtics just couldn't get that run to really counter the Nets. And again, I think you got to look back to Tatum, you know, Bobby. Like, I feel like Brad in himself was probably thinking, you know, keep Rob out there as long as I can, and I'll set him up to sort of hit that next stride. And it never happened. He couldn't find it.
Yeah, I thought there just wasn't anywhere to go in terms of improving the offense in that second half. The only thing I wonder is whether you could have gone centerless. And this is my next question for you guys. Was Tristan Thompson more of a help or an impediment in this game? I thought he played extremely well, but I just don't think he was a great fit for the game, for the series as a whole here. Like, you can use that offensive rebounding for those spot plays where you get a putback and you do this and that, but he was a -16 in this game. He didn't impact the defensive side of the floor the way you would want. And on offense, you're not getting that screen and roll action with him. You're not able to post him up effectively.
If you had Jalen, you could play, and you could play small. You could play small with Parker and give all the center minutes to Rob and really limit Tristan, and you'd be better off in this series. If you had Tice instead of Rob, you'd be way better off in this series. You know, I mean, instead of Tristan, rather.
That's when he would come in and just.
I feel like there's other ways
because
to do
Tristan
it. Tristan
doesn't do anything for you here. Anything for you. You know, because the problem is exactly this. If he was cleaning up the offensive glass and putting back, he doesn't do that. He cleans up the offensive glass, he gets a shot blocked, or he gets it, you know, like it just.
Or he brings it down to his knees and gets stripped.
It's just, or he gets stripped. It's not his thing.
I like when he taps it back. I like that one. Most of the time, someone there's a teammate back.
He did good things. It's just Bobby made a great point. He did good things. I don't know that it helped. You know, it's weird. It's a weird thing, but I think you're right.
To me, he hurt what they were missing, the offensive, punch there. They needed they needed another shooter, maybe a Peyton Pritchard, or they needed another wing like Nesmith, who I thought had a good game. Maybe he could have used more minutes. But the Celtics pretty soon are going to have to find ways to go small and get their bigs off the floor, because I don't know if Rob will be here for the full series, and Thompson – I get what they're doing. They're trying to find that matchup advantage. And you hear the Nets talk about it. They're like, we got to stop Thompson. We got to keep him off the glass. It's true, but it's not impacting the game. It's just impacting spot moments. Yeah.
It only impacts the game if you capitalize on it. Like, how many times the Celtics have those second chance opportunities, but they don't necessarily turn them into second chance.
I know, but how many, even the best putback guy in the league, how many extra points are you getting out of it? Like 6 in a game? Ultimately, it's just not offensive rebounding. So overrated.
Well, it's overrated when you're talking about a team like Brooklyn that, we may give up 2 points at that end, but we've got multiple guys that are going to get us 3 at the other end. Yeah. So 2 or 3 putbacks, 2 or 3 bad defensive possessions, all of a sudden that offensive rebounding that Tristan gives you, it's literally not helping.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of it. There's no gravity, surrounding Thompson. So there's no threat. Forget the lob threat. There's not even a threat to drop it to him if you drive, because he doesn't convert. Like I've said it before, never pass the ball to Tristan. It ends up bad. The results are bad almost always. He gets blocked. He's too slow to go up with it. So he's almost zero.
Doesn't have the Rob hands.
He's zero threat to do anything offensively, and he's not a playmaker. So he kills you offensively. He kills you, and he doesn't get to the free throw line because, like I said, you could just wait him out. He's like a pitcher with an 80-mile-an-hour fastball. You can sit on the junk, like you're gonna catch up to that thing. Like, you don't have to get off your feet. You just wait. and then you can still contest a shot or block it. Like there's no worry when he gets it.
He's a rebounder, and we've
That's
talked
it.
about this for years. Rebounding's overrated. You can lose the rebounding battle. I mean, are the Nets going to be one of the best rebounding teams at the end of the year? They're one of the worst, and they're going to be in the finals possibly.
Well,
right.
Again, it depends who you're playing against, Bobby. When you're playing against the Nets, I mean, it doesn't make a huge difference because they have so much offensive scoring power. It's like those matches between Cleveland and Golden State in the NBA Finals, where you can't really look into the rebound matchup and say, oh man, this could be the difference maker when you're playing against the arguably the greatest scoring lineup of all time. So to your point, but
you're right.
I like this night though. Like I like this performance. I like what he brought to the table. But in the grand scheme of things, when the guys like Kemba and Tatum, because they're so important for this in the series, that if they're not doing it, then things like this are magnified.
And I disagree that rebounding is overrated, because if you have a guy, you have guys out there.
You can't be bad at rebounding, but
what I'm saying is
being great at it doesn't add
having
that
an
much
offensive rebounding presence. If he's Tristan's smart enough to grab it and quickly kick it out to a shooter, and how many times have the Celtics been buried by that, where they make it they play 23 seconds of good defense, there's a miss and somebody cleans up the board and you're like, oh, I got to play defense for another or whatever, or it ends up in the hands of somebody else and they hit a three. Like those second chance opportunities are a big deal. I just don't. Thompson's not putting them back himself, but that can absolutely, giving your offense a second chance. I think it is valuable. Yeah. It just didn't turn into anything today.
Which, by the way, I hate. I know this is like a couple of years ago, but I hate the fact that the NBA switched the rule up where the shot clock doesn't reset to 24. Like that's the reward for a team getting that offensive rebound. Like I always thought that was the thing to do, because every offense needs at least 7 seconds or so, whatever it takes to gather their offense, and all of a sudden you only have like 4 seconds left. So I mean,
that's a great point. That's a great point, Josue.
Yeah, to this point, that even makes it less valuable, when you start stacking up offensive rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
especially Thompson, man. Thompson does this thing. I mean, nuts. He does this thing when I don't know, back in the day, kids would do it. Like they get the ball, they see everyone come to them, and they kneel over with the ball, and it's just like
part of the problem.
You can't pass out like
the way Thompson approaches it, because we know Rob's offensive rebounding is hugely impactful just because of how he approaches the situation and his eye for passing and all that stuff. It's just this team is among the elite of the elite when it comes to offensive rebounding this year, and what has it gotten them? Yeah,
well, who knows? Let's
find a playing game.
Let's I just want to tease this again. We got a lot of people in here right now. I fully expect every single one of you to jump into locker room. Okay, let's blow the roof off it tonight. You got Perk
texting me saying they're going.
You got Perk. You got a lot to say.
Some friends hopping in. Hopefully,
so do it. Jump in. Don't be stupid. Don't go to another room. Hang here with us. Perk's gonna jump on locker room. You're gonna jump on with you're gonna Sherrod and I'll head over and we're gonna run it for as long as Perk wants to hang with us. So download it if you haven't already.
That's all night.
I feel like he's gonna be here. He's gonna be here for a while.
Yeah.
Last time we were like, oh God. I was like, Perk, you want to keep talking?
Yeah.
Perk is come on, guys, let's party.
Perk's mad at Brad. That's going to be interesting to get into if he ends up talking about his problem with the comments coming into the series. I'll ask you guys, did you have a problem with that? It didn't strike me.
What was Perk saying about Brad?
So Brad
go ahead.
Brad in his presser Friday's practice, I believe. Yeah, yesterday's practice. Basically did the thing where he paid a lot of credit to the Nets, what they can do. But he took it a step.
Right?
Brad took it to another level.
He took it a step further and said they're expected to win this, and he basically conceded the fact that the Celtics are heavy underdogs in this. And
if you're a fan, if you watch the game, you know who's going to win this pretty much.
But what Brad did is like one of the oldest Jedi mind tricks that coaches with underdog teams do. I mean, Larry Brown used to do that all the time. I mean, he would talk about how, we're not going to beat Cleveland. I mean, I got Ben and Rasheed Wallace, but we're not very good. Those guys are great. They're world beaters. And they go out there and beat their asses by like 30 points. And that's just, I mean, to me, I took Brad's comments for him finally waking up to the fact that I got to try some different shit.
Yeah,
to try to get into these guys' head, because I know I'm absolutely 100% certain that some of his players took offense to what Brad said. Basically, he said, "You guys aren't going to win a damn game in this series," and I get why fans feel that way because
Brad's been hyping up the Nets all year. The first game, the Christmas Day game, he was ranting and raving about their talent and how it was one of the deepest, best rosters he's ever seen. And Perk basically said, if you love the Nets this much, go coach them.
Why don't you marry him? Yeah.
Which I feel a similar way about the Nets. I look at that Nets roster, and I am blown away at the number of ways that they can play. The depth,
amazing too.
The veteran presence.
Yeah.
The shooting. The defense, even. I think they have some potential defensively in certain.
Bruce Brown is pretty good. I think.
They didn't get things out of Brown tonight. They didn't get them out of Harris. And
you didn't see Jordan. Jordan's a guy I think that could bother Boston.
These are guys who could hurt you. Jordan, for his athleticism alone, could render Tristan useless if he wanted to there because he But again, they didn't feel the need, so he was a DNP. You're right. I mean, some of their role players who've murdered the Celtics throughout the year or have made their presence felt didn't show at all. Can you imagine Brooklyn playing an all-around worse game than this? I can't.
No. I mean, they only got 3 guys that showed up and played significantly well, and that's their big 3. The rest of their guys were just average to below average in almost every metric, in almost every type of category that you want to rank. And that's bad if you're Boston. Because again, like we said from the jump, this was a winnable, stealable game for Boston. So many things were aligning themselves to where they could have come out of this with a victory that they just didn't take advantage of.
I do think this game, for the people who think Brooklyn could win it all, does raise some concerns about them.
Yes.
Though, because now that you combine those 3 forces on the court, you saw it become my turn, your turn city for the whole game. Black hole approach from all 3 of them. Even Harden, who to start this year was such a great facilitator for them, really didn't blow me away with that. And what told me this is the problem the most is the fact that they couldn't get Joe Harris shots. It took until the 3rd quarter to get him a 3. And he's the best 3-point shooter in basketball. That's a guy you should be looking for, feeding time and time again. But it was just how easy were they to guard? Jabari Parker was having a great time out there in the defensive end because all he had to do was stand there with his hand up. And
I've never thought we'd ever – Bobby, I never thought I'd hear someone say that and would just have to just kind of –
I've been a big Brooklyn guy all year, and I said this about a week ago. I got Philly in the East. I don't think Brooklyn has it this year.
This is just one game. I'm not ready to put the.
I don't think they've had the time to mesh. I don't think they have the defense set right now. Really has such an easy path.
The thing about the Brooklyn team, though, is that, and we talked about this a few minutes ago, they have so many different ways that they can come at you. They've got bigs. They've got wings. They've got 3. Basically, they've got the 3 best players on the floor damn near every time they play. Most teams are lucky to have 1. Maybe 2 if you're really good. They've got the 3 best players every single night.
Though. It has
These are 3 guys who any year, right, who are all could be an MVP candidate this year if they played a full season. That's that we talked about the best big 3 ever. These guys on any other team would be MVP candidates if they right now if they wanted to be, and they're all on one team. What's funny is if they make it to Philly, that's actually the time. Well, this is like training camp for them, against the Celtics. Yeah. And then if the next series is when they're hopefully starting to click, it wouldn't even hurt them to lose a game or 2 here because they could play more exhibitions against Boston and get themselves right.
Almost like when the Lakers had that slow start, right?
I know that sounded really bad, right?
Damn.
I know, but then you're on to Milwaukee or Miami.
I wish I could push back on that. Damn, I wish I could push back on that, John. I really do, but I can't.
Right,
because it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense.
They can screw around here, and they know they're probably still going to win. And yeah, I know that was mean. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting beat up a little bit on that.
Why you do that, John? Yeah, that's the one. Why you do that,
man? That was mean. Yeah. That was mean. I knew it was mean as I was saying it.
After game 1, jeez, John.
Your seed and your home court don't mean a ton, as we've seen in the past.
I'm going to co-sign on this comment.
Oh, but it's going to in this series, Bobby. If you don't think, wait till game 3.
I just mean the overall in terms of like how the conference lines up each year, because we've seen 1 seeds like Atlanta and Boston fizzle out in the past, others over the years. Your path matters a ton, though. That gets teams like Boston to the East Finals. That gets teams that are in tight races in these conference to the finals if they can line up a good path in front of themselves. Philly's going to be playing Washington, who I think they're going to blow through. Atlanta, New York, who they're on a higher level than. And they're just going to get to that Eastern Conference final so much more easily and smoothly than Brooklyn does. And I think that's going to matter here. And I think at that point, Philly's just more connective, cohesive, and has had the reps throughout the year to be a great defensive team and know what they need to do on offense too. And just imagine Griffin trying to guard Embiid, Claxton, who's so skinny. And you're not going to play. You talk about this being an exhibition,
what I imagine,
John.
him guarding Embiid. That's
They're gonna
my
have to play.
reaction.
They're gonna have to play Jordan at that point. And if you're not playing Jordan now and figuring out how that's gonna work, that's a problem. I love the Nets
with Jordan and Claxton. I think Jordan and Claxton are going to flip flop. We're not going to see both of those. I think in the same series or in the same game that much, which makes sense. But I could definitely see Jordan playing more as they get deeper into the playoffs, where that experience and all that other crap.
And
people are asking real quick.
Why we went ahead and turn this to a preview of the Eastern Conference Final? Look at that.
Yeah, I don't give a crap. I don't care.
Damn,
Bobby,
Bobby.
yeah, stop. I don't care if the Nets are going to win or not. We're not. This isn't a Nets show. Like we're not. We're talking about the Celtics here. I don't care.
Mark
if the Nets
my words.
Win
if the Celtics win Game 2, Bobby, complete 180. Complete 180.
Yeah,
nice.
we're not doing that.
You never know. You want another one?
I want to tell people real quick because they're asking. We got a couple in the chat. What's the name of the room going to be called? We're going to open it up, and we'll put the link in this chat. So just hang here, and we'll pin it, and that's how you'll see it there. Or you could jump into Locker Room and you just look for Celtics, and we'll be the top thing because that's what's going to happen. We're going to get a lot of people in that room. You will find us, but it's Celtics Locker Room with Kendrick Perkins. We will have it right after the game, right after this post-game show, I should say. And as I said, we'll put the link in the chat, give you guys some time to go populate the room, and then we'll hop over there when Perk's ready. But yeah, no, you want
a Celtics take, John? This is going to be an intensely competitive series every game.
Yeah, I disagree.
I think it's going to get worse.
I think Brooklyn is this was the wake up call for Brooklyn. I think they're going to come out and play way better in Game 2. I would hope that the Celtics would compete, but I think this series is going to wind up being one where the Celtics will play hard and do all that stuff that we've been begging for them to do.
That's
all
what
season.
I mean by competitive.
And they're still going to get their asses kicked. They're still going to get their asses kicked.
That's what I mean by competitive. I don't mean this is going 7. I mean this could be 4, and all 4 games are going to be entertaining, close, as we saw today.
I don't think they're going to be close going forward.
I smell a blowout at some point. It's going to get ugly. But
I think it's only going to get ugly.
I mean, this
was a game they should have stole. I can't be more.
Brooklyn
Game 2
barely played this game.
Yeah.
You got about 30% of the
Game 2 should blow out, actually. Now I think about it. Game 2 should blow out.
Brooklyn basically won with like 3.5 players.
Pretty much.
We know how.
And their big 3, and the rest of the team was like half a player. Yeah. That's what they wanted.
It's like when your Y ball the Y ball team almost no one showed up, but the 3 best players did. So we good. We're good. Don't worry about it.
Let me ask you this, okay? Let's dig into the. Okay, you go back. It's easy to say should have stole one, should have played better. Yes, absolutely. But if you're Brad and you're putting on your adjustment hat right now, what are you doing? Like, you saw what happened here, and you think if I just do blank, we can change the outcome here. What would that be?
You're not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say it.
Play Lil Cornette?
No, you got to get Grant in there.
I thought he was gonna say that.
You have to get Grant in there because with what we say about Thompson.
I'm out.
With what we say about
he threw the headsets. He's out. He's out.
This is the perfect series for Grant. I'm actually gonna dive deep into this because when you're playing Blake Griffin, when you're playing smaller Nets lineups.
Go ahead.
When you're playing smaller Nets lineups, I would love him playing center because he can post up. He can play inside as he wants to. He's not going to be physically dominated out there. This game to me was calling for Grant because he can shoot, because he can play the perimeter. He can pass. He can pass if he gets into his positions. I'm ready for him to have a.
Is he still doing it? Is he still doing it?
He's still doing it.
Bobby, this is good. This is good because when it happens, I can pull this back out, and you guys will go, I didn't really mean it. We were just doing a bit.
Or if they play Grant and they get their asses whipped by 40, we'll pull this back for that anyway.
I mean, just look at the last week and a half taught us, though, Bobby. I've always been the one to say, like, if he's not hitting those threes, like, it just doesn't do anything. It doesn't do much for the Celtics.
The thing is, when you're playing a Nets team with, say, Blake inside, if you want to counter Blake's minutes with Grant can post up Blake. There's no problem.
The only way he'll help is if he's making threes.
Time out.
John,
I swear I'm not gonna. I swear I won't be mean. I swear this will be sensible. Okay.
You gotta choose one, John. You can't say we're not talking about the bigger East Finals picture and not dive into possible.
No. I stop. I swear I'm not gonna be. I'm not gonna yell and scream and rant. And say with 20 seconds. I'm not just gonna say Grant sucks and stop. It's one thing to say, hey, maybe Grant could have played instead of Jabari, and that could be something. But when we're talking about the adjustment is not Brad Stevens saying, Grant.
Grant didn't play today.
Like, what else? What else are you doing? Give me something more. You know, like that's not the only. He's not. Brad's not going to go home and be like, Grant. That's it.
I guarantee they're going. Like, you're going to see Grant next.
That's not going to be the thing that he thinks is going to tip the series. It might be something that he does differently as he's kind of messing around.
Nothing's going to tip the series. That's the reason we all picked the sweep.
When you looked at this game, what do you see them that they need to do differently?
They need to be able to play smaller, and that's Grant allows you to do that. He's versatile. He's more mobile. He can shoot, and he passes from the low post position.
Grant, it would make sense if it wasn't Grant. You know, like if it was somebody, you know what I mean?
If it wasn't Grant.
Like if it was somebody who was smaller and did the type of things you think Grant Williams could do, but doesn't do because he's Grant Williams. Like,
no, that's not true.
It is. It would make sense if Grant Williams was a different guy.
Like a Brandon Bass from back in the day.
Right. Or something.
This isn't about what Grant is, because we saw Grant in college.
If he was Brandon Bass, that'd be a different story. Like, yo, sign me up. Brandon Bass, what? Like, that would be
BDB.
We saw
mid-range shot. Yeah, sign me up.
We not only saw Grant in college, where he was one of the best players in the country, period. We saw him last year in certain matchups be an impactful player who actually had some legitimately great games just because of the skill sets he can bring to the table. The problem for Grant is that he's a tweener at this level. We know he can't play the wing, and there's very few matchups where he can play center. This is one of those matchups, and this is another reason I was actually kind of excited to see this, because I think the Celtics can play smaller here, take Thompson off the floor, and they're not going to do it, which is frustrating to me, because they think that Thompson's a legitimate matchup advantage with his offensive rebounding. And
I'm glad this happened. I'm glad this
happened.
I didn't think I would have any fun tonight, so I'm glad
this happened too, because I guarantee he's going to get out there at some point and make a huge impact.
He will get out there. If you're Brad, I think the one adjustment that you're giving serious thought to, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion, start Time Lord. Start the freaking.
Why would you start your best player? That's asinine, Sherrod.
Because I think he has an expiration.
What am I thinking? The guy that came one rebound and one block away from a triple-double in 20 freaking minutes. Why would you want that guy out there at the beginning of the game?
You may have to, but what stinks is, yes, if he didn't have the
he has a minutes limit per se.
You know what I was thinking though? You know what I thought about? And I don't know if it's even gonna help, but like, remember the KG program, Sherrod, John? Remember like towards the later years? 5 minutes, 5 and 5.
Yeah, the 5-5-5.
Yeah, you start with 5 because they need that energy to start off. They always need energy to start off because they're not going to have it on their own, you know. And
well, they did
tonight, but you can't count on that for games.
Yeah. It's hard to argue.
This was a fluke.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with how Rob was used tonight. Every single second he was out there.
He made it further in the game.
Was game-changing, and he played 23 minutes, and he played at the end of the game. I think you got it. I think you squeezed as much as you could out of Rob. If you start him, but I would say start him to get that spark, but they actually started well. So it's really hard to argue it there.
I think they really like Thompson just completely bodying Blake, and you can't argue with that either. Blake was a non-factor.
Blake won't start next game.
Who's starting?
He will not.
Who do you think's gonna start?
I think you throw Claxton, throw DeAndre. You can throw anyone out there. Blake is
Claxton's
a walking turnstile.
I don't think Blake. I would be surprised if I'd be equally surprised or not surprised with him starting and being a DNP CD next game. I swear. I think they could easily just be like, we're not going to play Blake now. Like
this is the problem. Go ahead, Shira. I know what you're going to say.
I was going to say the problem with Blake being out there is that if you run even a weak-ass pick-and-roll game and he stays with a guy or switches, he's going to be at a mismatch. He can't guard a single player in this series. I would put him in pick and rolls every single possession because I know whatever comes out, whether he stays with the ball handle or he switches, he can't guard them at all. That includes if your boy Grant Williams played. He can't guard Grant either.
Is Nash going to be able to do that, John?
I don't think Nash will do it. That's the thing.
This is what we talked about with Drummond.
You hear that, Bobby? Grant can do good things if given the right opportunity.
I've made my statement on Grant. We'll see if it comes to fruition or not. With Blake, the reason he's out there is because he's there to be out there.
I do not hate it, Bobby.
I said that before they left. It's that John's reaction was worth it. So
I don't even want to look at that.
Bobby, I don't hate it. I just don't think that's the magical thing that's going to.
Well, what is it?
That's why
What's your answer? What's your answer, John?
I was asking you guys. I
gave you my answer, and you didn't like it. So what's your answer?
You actually think it's Grant?
Yes! I've been saying this since last week. I love that they got the Nets because you can go small. Grant can play center, and they can be more versatile. I don't think this is a good matchup because
mine is get those guys in the pick and roll and exploit, or get them to switch and exploit the proper matchups.
Grant can play a little pick and roll. He's not going to finish, but he'll make short roll passes.
But yeah, I would just get away from that. Like I said, it's too many times where they just settled for shots rather than finding the matchup and taking the action. This is a Brooklyn team you should be able to have your way with.
You know what they should have done in the second half?
This bad an offensive performance is shocking. It's shocking that they did. So
you know what they should have done in the second half is gone to Pritchard because they need the offense.
I would have too. I don't know what happened there.
What's Brad's thing with Pritchard now? And this has been the whole fourth quarter of the season. He's gone away from Pritchard. Remember when I asked you guys, because this was a serious question in my mind, would Pritchard be part of the playoff rotation? And we saw emphatically on Tuesday the answer is no. When we asked that question at the end of the regular season, we were all yes, 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 because it seems like a no-brainer. This guy's one of the best shooters in the league, and they needed shooting. They needed offense in that second half.
He's got to get his feet wet.
I can't figure it out.
He's got to get his
feet wet. I don't get about the Pritchard thing.
Yeah, you don't think I don't get it.
I mean, he has the confidence. I just think maybe Brad's just sort of easing him into it. I just think it's a tough stage to be on. But obviously Pritchard hasn't shown any signs of doubt for those big stages. I always talk about what he did against Steph Curry in the Warriors, taking some wild shots in the middle of one of Curry's best quarters.
Honestly, what is Pritchard? Pritchard is Kemba. I mean, he's not as good as Kemba, but he's Kemba. Like, he's a guy he's a shoot first point guard. He can handle the ball. That's a great point too. He gets to where he wants to go. So when Kemba's not being Kemba, when Kemba's not being Kemba, let Pritchard try to be Kemba. Like, it doesn't make sense there. Like, you should absolutely, Kemba's cold. Bring in Pritchard and let him friggin' run the offense and jack some shots. They play the same friggin' game offensively, very similar. Yeah. So I don't understand why.
Well, not only that, Pritchard's much better off the ball. He's one of the best catch
and he's a great catch and shoot shooter. So you can run that off the ball.
I would like to see them try to set him up more for open threes because they're going to leave him open. They're going to leave him open.
That's the issue that we talked about earlier. They don't have someone who can set the table for guys. And Marcus, if he's not doing it, because as you pointed out, Pritchard is a great catch and shoot, but
Rob will find him. Rob will find him.
That's why you start.
Him and Rob have a great connection.
Him and Rob have a good rapport. Rob will find him.
They do.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I get why they're not going to him because we've seen him struggle immensely against the Nets. We've seen him struggle when he goes against starting units, and he's small. So they can't have multiple wings and defensive versatility out there if they're running those guys. I just look at the second half where they had 4 points midway through the third quarter. Yeah. They need a spark. And you're so right, John. Kemba couldn't be out there tonight. So you need someone to replicate where Kemba can do.
And that's what he can do. And that's where you pick it up. He knocks down a couple of threes where everybody else is cold. It changes things. It's very strange to choose to not use.
And you don't have another answer. It's not Semi. It's not Romeo. It's not Edwards. And
not for that. Absolutely not.
No. Mm-hmm.
No.
I was waiting for Bobby to go 2 chairs down and see Taco sitting there. You're going to go Taco?
I was waiting for
that bench is just.
Taco is not the answer this
Didn't
series.
even dress.
What I like about this series is you can try a variety of things as the Celtics just because the Nets are going to play so small and not care about the interior and size and, frankly, defense. That's what's frustrating me about this one is that you look at the Nets and say where the Celtics can hit them is on the offensive side of the floor because they're not going to guard. And to see them go through those droughts that they did in that third quarter especially was frustrating because this should be the easiest team to score on imaginable. I wanted this team over Philly because I knew what Philly was going to look like. Tatum suffocating against Simmons and getting no looks in the paint and just the amount of defensive power that Philly has just suffocating the Celtics into a sweep. Here, at least you can play with some freedom. You can try a lot of different guys. You can get open looks. And to see this game be a 37% game from the field, not great.
Yeah. Not great.
What's your adjustment? What are your adjustments, Josue Sherrod? Where would you go?
I mean, I told you, I'm putting Time Lord in that starting group.
All right.
I want to, because to me, that's the only way that you can feel confident that you're going to get off to a relatively good start. Tonight, they had a great game out the gates. I get it. But they have not done enough this year for anyone, including themselves, to feel as though that's something that can be a commonplace, a norm. But when you've got Time Lord out there, he's that dude. He makes sure everyone is eating. He's your point guard. He's your point guard at the center position. He makes sure everyone is connected defensively. And as a help side defender, I thought he was amazing today. Because you think about most of his blocks were help side blocks. He's just a great tone setter.
Like KG wasn't even doing this.
But KG played with a completely different mentally. The guys he played with were built different.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. This is like Josue said to open the show. This is a performance. Even if this ends up being a sweep and a forgettable series, everyone's going to remember that time Rob almost got a triple-double with blocks.
Oh man, I wish he had it. That was unbelievable. I actually think if they go back and look at the tape, that he should have been credited, I believe, with 2 on Claxton on the one he hurt his toe, but he only got credited for 1 in that sequence. I think I don't know whether they would review that for a stat. I actually think he had. I think he blocked both of those shots.
Bradshaw challenged it. Let's give him the triple-double.
That was he had 6 and he came away from that exchange with 7. So they only gave him 1 block on that one. I swear he got a piece of both of those. But they didn't show. I didn't see a replay, so I'm not entirely sure. I wouldn't be stunned.
They didn't say it. Yeah, they didn't say like again.
I thought he got both of those. I want to let everybody know we have opened locker room. We're not heading there just yet, but we will be shortly. Perk's going to head over there. We're going to do the same. So I believe, Sherrod, someone has sent you the link as well on your email, so you will have it. We will be heading over shortly, so jump in with us and with Perk, and like I said, we'll give you the go-ahead when we're there, but you guys can jump in there now and kind of hang out, sit in the lobby, sit in the waiting room, and we'll be there momentarily. Line up your speaker requests, and we will obviously get to you. For those new to this, download it on your app store. It's available on Android now or on iPhone, iOS. Go in, Locker Room. It's free. It's basically, we're going to continue talking about this game, this series, the Nets title chances, Grant Williams, whatever it is, we'll talk about it. But we want to hear from you. You guys get to join the chat and talk with us. So jump in there if you want to have your voice heard. If you want to talk to Kendrick Perkins, this is a rare opportunity to get to do so. So jump in there. It's Perk, man. It's Perk. He's awesome, and he's gonna have a lot on his mind. He's gonna have a lot to say. So jump in there.
He's gonna be even more mad than you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not even mad. Not until you said Grant Williams, I was fine.
I can't wait to see what the chat was saying when I said that.
Oh my God.
Have it up right
you
now.
Know what, that
walk off.
It was pretty good. The chat was it was just everybody saying no, Bobby, get Bobby off the show.
Grant's in the NBA. He was a first round pick for a reason. And I don't think he's been a great fit at this level.
Grant's in the NBA. But Grant drives a Dodge Stratus.
You can't say that Grant sucks.
Yeah.
There's a matchup, there's a fit here somewhere where he can be an effective player on this team. And I think this is the kind of position where he is.
Maybe not sucks, but
No, he's had a bad year. I just don't think he necessarily, as a player, sucks. I don't think that's the truth. If you go back and watch his college tape, what he did at Tennessee, even what he did last year, I think.
No, I know.
He doesn't suck. We know this.
We've been saying this all year long. Like, what happened? Why didn't he look like he took a step back? You know?
I think it's the role he's playing on this team.
He was playing better last year. Yeah, but you make it sound like there's not an opportunity there at the 4. Like, there's all kinds of opportunities. Like,
no, I don't think he's a good 4. I think that's the problem. But again, you do look at the minutes. Last year was similar. I'm interested to see the playoff minutes because that's when he really started moving to the 5.
I'm still surprised we didn't see him at all. Like, I'm not saying that's like the magic sauce here, but just to sort of help to, you know what? I'm surprised, but I'm also not surprised because they sort of handled it on their own. But again, they just didn't have the extra offense to go ahead, or at least to get rid of that last deficit towards down the stretch. And I just don't think Grant's going to do that.
How do you guys think of Brad's game? Because those are the things you do need to lean on Brad for. We're struggling on offense here in the 3rd. We're starving for buckets. We have 4 points midway through this frame. What can we do to adjust mid-game? I thought the rotations overall were rock solid and kept them close.
Link is here, by the way, for those. We just posted it again. It's in the chat. It's pinned. It's everywhere. For locker room, we are heading over momentarily. Sorry, Bobby. Go ahead.
I am concerned in this series, just based on the year Brad's had, that we won't see the major adjustments we've seen in the past. I think he likes what he's playing it safe to some degree. Now, we're not seeing Semi out there, which is a step in the right direction, but the rotations he set tonight kept it close and kept it competitive. When maybe one more adjustment in the 3rd quarter there, something would have pushed them over the top. Who knows? Maybe it would have gone worse. But you do have to take some risks in this series. And I think he coached a better game than I expected him to. But you need to be a significant, massive head and shoulder coach above Nash here to win your advantage as the head coach.
Yeah, but Nash is smart enough to know that I don't really have to do a whole lot other than just to make sure I don't do too much. I mean, Nash, he's been around these guys long enough to know that they kind of know how to win games on their own. I don't really have to do a whole lot other than just manage the personnel, make sure that Bruce Brown isn't get this idea that he's a 25-point per game scorer, make sure that Blake Griffin is in the starting lineup, even though I know my eyes are telling me that he probably shouldn't even be playing. But we're going to figure out a way to work around that. Nash does a good job of managing the game, but Brad has to coach. Brad has to come up with ways to keep his team competitive because they don't have the talent on the other side.
Yeah,
they just don't.
Sometimes I think it's the X's and O's standpoint from Brad. Obviously we always talk about the classic ATO guy and how he sort of returned to that a little bit in some of these games the last couple of weeks, whether it was end of the game kind of play or some sort of play that they did out of a timeout. And I would love to see him just set up these rookies, try to get them some more looks a little bit, but especially Pritchard. Maybe not just set him up for 3-point shots and looks, but let him get aggressive a little bit, and obviously that facilitating, for Marcus Smart can go hand in hand with that. But at the same time, when the offense runs dry and you need some guys to score, like I still feel like there's going to be a game in this series where Pritchard's going to drop like 12, 14. I don't know, something like that. You're going to be
Bobby, are you doing that thing where you got to leave and come back?
Yeah.
Do it now.
Oh no. Wait, me or Bobby?
Bobby.
Oh, all right. I thought you couldn't hear me or nothing.
He needs to be a different guy.
He needs to change. Changing to Grant Williams.
It's a quick change.
Yeah, like it's gonna be one of those games where you're gonna say, man, if Pritchard could have given the Celtics that every night this series, maybe they get a better shot at it,
Maybe. So as soon as Bobby comes back, we're gonna jump. Perk isn't there yet, but the room's starting to fill up. We got about 50 plus people in there. So Sherrod and I'll go hang until Perk gets there, and then Joe Sway and Bobby will head over in a minute or two. They'll wrap up this show. So if you guys want to hang here for a little bit for some Grant Williams talk with Bobby, do so.
Oh gosh, Grant Williams.
What
the hell is the world coming to?
Bless him.
You got Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and we're over here talking about freaking Grant Dan Williams.
Don't tell Bobby this. Don't tell. Don't tell Bobby this, but I swear I was gonna say I would have played Grant over Tristan tonight until he said it. but I might have.
That was that, John. Real talk. Since he's not here, never mind.
Okay.
You can say it in the locker room. He's gonna say it.
Yeah.
We'll say it in the locker room. Anyway, Sherrod, let's you and I head over. We'll let these guys close it up again. We've gone about an hour here, so I think that's good. We're going to jump in the locker room. We're going to start talking to you guys. Again, ton of people in there already. Perk is on his way. So Sherrod and I will head over. Those of you who want to jump over, join us, or just hang in this post-game show. And when these guys are done, come on over. We're going to keep it going for a while, so we want to hear from you guys. In addition to you guys coming over, share it with your friends. Send the link out, okay? We want to get as many people in there as possible. We enjoy doing it. We want to grow the audience. It's a fun time. Good group in there. So
we got Perk. Come on, let's be honest. We're trying to flex. We're trying to flex a little bit, guys. We want to flex. We got Perk in the.
Nobody wants to hear me.
You'll get to ask Perk a question tonight.
You get to ask Perk a question.
Yeah,
it's about
you're
you
gonna
guys.
do it.
We talk plenty. Yeah, you get to hear from Perk. So let's jump over there, guys. You guys can close it off here.
All right, let's do it.
Right, later.
See you guys soon. Bobby, what you got here? What's going on?
Well, we got about 10 minutes here. We'll close it out. And I just want to emphasize how thrilled I was with the effort tonight. Again, I don't think this – I don't want to, start waving the towel and saying it's going to be a series and going too far with this. But with how dead we've seen the Celtics at times this year, with how low they've gotten on themselves – I just love that they were locked in, that they built an early lead, that they led throughout the whole second half or the whole first quarter or first half.
First half, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then even though they let go of the rope a little bit at the end, it wasn't a disaster. It's not like the Nets just started running rampant on them. They had a nice stretch. The Celtics got in foul trouble. Rob got banged up. The Nets took advantage with a key stretch there and won the game fairly and pretty closely. So this is all we asked for, right? The compete level to be there, and it was.
Right, and that's exactly what we asked for. And that's exactly why I'm not disappointed with the Celtics' effort. I mean, you can go through the what-ifs and all that, and you can drive yourself crazy, but at the end of the day, if you're playing against three elite superstars like that, you look at what you got from Kemba in the second half, what you got from Tatum in the second half, it's just not going to cut it. It's just not the recipe. But again, you're not going to look at this team and say, man, these two are really disappointing tonight, because it's just when the margin of error is that thin, that's what's going to happen in the postseason. Is that going to happen in game two? Probably not. I think one of those guys has a way better second half, probably Jayson Tatum out of the two. But you can't forget what you saw in that first half. To your point, I mean, regardless of how they did it, they were in front of the Nets for most of that first half. So obviously they have the offense to keep up, because it wasn't just them with a 2-point lead throughout most, and they were the lead was teetering. I mean, they were holding on to that lead, and you can look at the defense and say, man, there's some way you can sort of. But is there really, Bobby? I mean, I don't know if there is. This might be as good as it gets, and I know that's not what Celtics fans want to hear, especially when you look at how cold those three guys were in the first half. I mean, you're probably not going to see a first half like that from those three guys shooting-wise, but at least the Celtics, I mean, when it comes to competing, the transition defense, I just thought they looked better energy-wise, and they're able to sustain that throughout the entire first half. They look better than I thought they would. Keeping up with the Nets, just in general, staying in front of them a bit. You give up a few open looks, but for the most part, I mean, they were keeping up, and defensively they were there. It's just, how can they carry this over for 4 quarters? How do you sustain that blowback that's eventually going to happen from those three guys, where if they're not hitting shots left and right in that first half, they're going to in the second. They're going to turn it around, one way or another.
Yeah, you have to throw some subtle adjustments in there. And what the Nets ultimately did that won this game was going a little more Bruce Brown, a little less Blake Griffin, and just let KD hang out at center. It's not that consequential of a center matchup anyway. And this is why I don't like Thompson being out there. Nets, I was on all those Nets calls throughout the week, Joe Sway. They did a lot of this about Thompson because I feel like they had something to say. And I love when Blake was asked about what stands out about the Celtics, and he was like, they know each other well. And he listed off some stuff after that, but that was the first thing they mentioned. So they're kind of looking for stuff to say. Harden looked down on the list and was like, yeah, we got to watch out for Fournier. They know where they're at here. Nash isn't worried. The Nets aren't worried. This is kind of their round to get it right here. The Celtics have to throw a bit of a curveball there. And take their center off the court, and if that's what the Nets are keying in on, and all of a sudden it shifts to having 3 Celtics guards out there that can just rain it on from 3, that could be a little bit of a, nick that they throw in there at them. They got to make themselves a little more unpredictable. And when you look at the tape of the Celtics this year, they're bigger, they're slower, they plod inside, and that's what the Nets are prepared for. If you throw 3 guards out there, no one has seen the Celtics play like that this year, and the third quarter was the prime time to do that. I don't know. What other adjustments do you have in mind?
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, again, just trying to find open looks for guys that can knock down threes. I mean, they have to find a way.
That's so key. Someone's
got to supplement that. I mean, what was it? 9 3-pointers in the first half? I mean, obviously they were on pace to finish with a lot more.
They had 0 in the second, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
but you saw the difference in me. Yeah. Oh, the Kemba ones that it was too little, too late. Yeah, but outside of those, yeah, and then of course, not a single field goal from Jayson Tatum. Like, I'm stating the obvious. That can't happen again. But if you're Brad Stevens and you see how they are able to drain, or how quickly they were, how hot they got in that first half, the fast start that they had from behind the 3-point arc. I mean, you have to be encouraged to say, you know what, maybe we could just set these guys up more often. And it's like what we were saying when we were previewing the series from the very beginning, right? It was like, man, you're gonna need these two, Kemba and Tatum, to go off for like 68 or 65 points. They have to combine for that. And if the Celtics can tally up 19 to 23 pointers, I mean, like, those were like the rare wins that the Celtics were able to squeeze out throughout the course of the regular season. Maybe there were games that they were supposed to win, but they were able to pull it off against elite talent with that formula. I can't help but think that if they do win a game in the series, it's going to be something to that effect that gets it done.
Why do you think Jayson slowed down the way he did in that second half?
I just thought, I don't know. I feel like it's weird because it seemed like he was a little bit out of his game trying to get more fouls, but I thought he was aggressive enough to get to the free throw line. He was getting the calls, and then it just seemed like he stopped being that aggressive. I don't know if a lot of that had to do with him trying to keep up on defense, because that happens a lot. I think that's something that sometimes we don't talk about enough. Like, when you're trying to counter from a huge run against guys like these who really run the floor, like, they take out a lot of they take out a lot of out of you, and especially if you're 6-7 minutes into the second half where the Celtics needed to react there. And I don't know, man. I don't know if that was just more of him trying to get everyone else involved, and he knew how important it was for Kemba, especially down the stretch. But
what I thought it was, looking back on it.
Do you think he's being too shy, or what was it?
I thought Bruce Brown did a really good job on him, and that guy is underrated. He's from Wakefield, right?
Yeah, mass
guy, great at Miami. And if I remember correctly, I forget which draft he was in, but the Celtics had a real chance to pick him. I don't know if he just got taken ahead of them. That actually might have been how it played out, but they were right in that range where he could have fallen to them. That might have been the Rozier draft, or maybe it was 2 years later, the Rob draft. I forget.
Yeah, I think that was the Shamet draft, because Shamet, it was Shamet and then Rob got picked in the first round. So they could have grabbed him. Yeah. I think that was the year he got.
So Brown ended up going a little earlier than a lot of people thought he would, which was disappointing, because it just made sense to have another wing who with defensive abilities, who had some shooting concerns, and that's ultimately been what he's turned out to be. He's actually like a 10-10 kind of guy on his best night, which is interesting at his size, but he plays like that mini defensive stopper, on-ball kind of guy, and he was aggressive in denying Tatum that ball in the second half, and that's that adjustment I talked about. Blake was useless for them. He wasn't giving them anything on offense. Yeah. He certainly was killing them on the defensive end of the floor. So they brought in an on-ball stopper to shut Tatum down, and for the most part, he kind of did.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess I should credit the Nets defense, especially with the way they contain Tatum. But it's just tough because when he gets going and it just looks so easy for him to get to the rim and stuff. It's like, why can't you keep doing that? But I don't know. I think in the fourth quarter, a lot of that had to do with Brooklyn's defense, but also it was just the Celtics trying to stop the bleeding. I mean, once it got to a 10-point deficit, it was like, well, they were able to get it down because of those Kemba threes, but at that point, it just felt like the game was over. It was too little, too late.
So let's, if you're excited to get over there with Perk, get into that locker room,
let's do it.
Started right now. We'll take a few questions here just because we're not going to be yip-yapping over there, so we might as well do it over here while we can and have the people's attention. I've been looking at the chat a ton tonight, so fire away a few questions. We'll stay here a few more minutes. We'll probably head over there at midnight. It's about 11:58 right now, so we'll take 2 or 3 questions here before we roll out. I see a lot of people actually happy with this game. If Fournier and Kemba did their thing tonight, we'd be singing a different tune. What do you think of Fournier's game?
He was driving me a little crazy on the defensive side. And I know, that's not sort of his thing, but like heading into the series, I was more afraid of him gambling off the ball. He was gambling like on the ball. And it's like, Fournier, you're not going to steal the ball that way, nor are you going to get the benefit of the doubt on a play call. So you're just putting yourself at risk to get into foul trouble. I just thought he was a little too aggressive on defense. And I know that's the one part of his game I shouldn't even be like, shouldn't be magnified to a certain extent, but it's important for him not to get in foul trouble. He's one of the few guys. He's like the big three. He's part of the big three, if you will, in terms of guys that could put up points, 20 plus points for this team. And I mean, offensively, I'm not quite sure if he was just like the way the ball was swinging, the way, if he just didn't get enough touches, but I don't know. What did you think? I felt like when he came to his offense, maybe he was thinking too much on defense. It was that kind of thing. That sort of.
Yeah, it felt like he didn't have a place offensively. He wasn't on the ball a ton, obviously.
He just looked overwhelmed on the defensive end. I felt like it rattled him on the other side.
Well, I do like the aggressive nature because, again, you're so undermanned in this series that you have to try to catch some balls in lanes and run out in transition and take some risk in that sense. So I don't mind that.
But he didn't even do that. Like, that's what he
got a few steals in that first quarter. Yeah,
and then after that, do that. And then he had a steal or a couple, but yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't the impactful guy you saw at the end of the year, which is disappointing because I do think this is a series where he could get a lot of open shots. But again, guys have to get him there. His skill with the Celtics, surprisingly to me, has been catch and shoot. And do you even remember a single catch and shoot opportunity from him all game? It was sort of a lot of him chucking whenever he could get the ball. And there wasn't much rhythm there. Same thing with Kemba.
Yeah, I mean, again, to what I expect from Brad Stevens in game 2, like he has to set these guys up, find ways to get more looks for guys like Fournier, Pritchard, clean looks, because you could get it against this team. Those guys can get open, especially when they're on the floor with Kemba and Tatum.
All right, so it is 12 o'clock here. As promised, we are going to head over to locker room. But first, we have to wish a happy birthday to Josue Pavone.
Oh, that's a graphic. You guys had this ready.
Look at that.
Appreciate it, bro. Right
I don't know how old you are. If you want to announce it, you can. But I do know it's your birthday today, so...
A little over 30. We'll say that.
All right.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Oh,
awesome.
Man, I didn't expect this at all. I was like, they don't even know. I was going to mention in the locker room at some point because I knew it was going to be after midnight, but that's what's up, man. Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Timed out perfectly. So everybody in the chat, wish Josue a happy birthday. Yeah. If you want to, maybe you can Venmo him, get him a drink or something. If anybody's in the chat, maybe Josue will drop his Venmo in the locker room chat. I think that would be a good idea. Drink tonight.
If you guys are in, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll join you guys.
We're gonna trust me. We're gonna be on there for a while with Kendrick Perkins. I know John's gonna give him a lot of outs, but Perk is gonna be ready to go till 2 a.m. tonight. That's my biggest prediction of the night. I also said that the Celtics were gonna win the night, so maybe I'll be wrong, but we'll see. We're heading over to the locker room now. Trust me. You're going to get a question in with Kendrick Perkins if you get over there. He's going to be there long enough for that at the very least. So head over there, ask him a question, wish Josue a happy birthday, and we will see you over there in just a few minutes.